it's important to say that the best thing you can do to reduce your overall risk of ergonomic injury is to get up and take micro breaks during the day to reduce those periods of static behaviors from whatever they are now, which might be different for every person, to slightly more frequent micro breaks. Even 2 minutes of gentle movement every hour is enough to rehydrate and refresh your body's connective tissue. Okay, so this is a bigger break in the middle of the working day, which is ideal, but it in no way replaces the need to have shorter micro breaks where you might not get down on a mat, but at least get out of your working posture. Maybe you work standing up, so then standing wouldn't be considered a break from standing. Standing is a break from sitting. Walking is a break from standing. Getting on the floor is a break from everything else. So again, welcome back. We're going to begin on the mat. Okay, we're going to take a moment just to connect with our bodies. I'm going to actually begin sitting up today. I think we usually begin lying down. I'm going to begin sitting up today. So make sure that you are having the support you need to sit. I'm just going to demonstrate. I have these yoga blocks. You could just jam a running shoe underneath your thigh. You want to be able to sit in a cross-legged position. That's going to look a little bit different for everybody, but without straining the hips, okay? So if you are a man, for example, with tight hips, when you sit cross-legged, your knees are going to be much, much higher than your hips. In that case, you're going to take your props, move them pretty far up your thighs so that you can feel that you could just release your legs, there's support from beneath, and you don't have to do too much work prior to warming up at the hip in order to maintain your legs in this position, okay? You might want to use only one prop, maybe one, you notice when you look at yourself. What we're really here to do, after all, is pay attention to what's going on in our bodies. Maybe one knee is much, much higher than the other, and that hip is already feeling a little bit uncomfortable from attempting to sit cross-legged. It's okay to use one prop. We don't have to be symmetric here in the way we support our bodies, because our bodies themselves are not symmetric. Okay, so find the props you need. You may want to sit on your prop. It's a little hard to sit on a shoe, but if your hips are very tight, then it's extremely helpful to sit with the hips raised higher than the knees, okay? I can't make a recommendation. Part of this is just playing around with the geometry of our individual bodies, and eventually it all comes together. We understand what postures we maintain that create tightness, and we understand what areas of tightness in our bodies lead us to prefer certain postures over others. So let's just sit for a few moments in whatever position works for you. Some degree of cross-leggedness, or at least triangle shape between the knees and the pelvis. And we're going to exhale and connect with the supporting surface. Okay, so we're going to connect through feet and the sides of the shins, as well as the sitting bones, which are called your ischial tuberosities, the IT bones or the sits bones. Those are the two pointy bones at the bottom of your pelvis. Okay, you may want to take a moment to rock backwards and forwards on those. Okay, this is also going to give you information about areas of tightness in your own bodies. Okay, if you find that you're sitting, that is not possible for you, even with raised hips, to sit with an erect spine, it's just a sign of tightness in the hips, which translates into the lower back. If your hips are very tight, when you sit in a cross-legged position, your back is going to be curved a little bit forward, okay? We don't want to go into a hyperextension of the back here, even if you can. We want to have the spine falling through all of its alternating curves onto the sitting bones so that we can release and be aware of the support of the ground, and perhaps a prop, a cushion will do nicely. And then let's have the spine experience the ease that is a result of a nice stable base. Okay, so we'll bring the breathing into this. On the exhalation, let yourself root down into the supporting surface, and on the inhalation, follow the lifting of the vertebrae of the spine, each one off the vertebra below it. Okay, and you're going to feel that expansiveness, that opening up right through the crown of your head. With the exhale, we release to the ground, and that's what allows us to rise back up a little taller with the next inhalation. Okay, we're working with opposite pairs here, with oppositional forces. One of them is the root to rise, reflex. Okay, we talk about that a lot in yoga. In order to get more length in the spine or in the extremities, we root down a little deeper. So rooting is done on the exhalation, and the rising is done on the inhalation. Now, the key here is to find a position that affords you great stability, but also where you can experience some ease. Okay, we're always going for that balance. If your spine is really straining, you should adjust your sitting posture. Let the structure of the spine clipping into the pelvis, being supported by the pelvis, being supported by the ground. Let that support you, let that do the work rather than the muscles of your back, okay? There's structural support and there's also like soft tissue support. Right now, we just want to enjoy the structural support for a moment here of quiet sitting and noticing, okay, noticing what's going on in your areas of support, feet, shins, pelvis, and areas of ease, spine, head, and shoulders. The hands are also connecting with the supporting surface. The supporting surface for the hands is the legs. So let the hands do some of that work. Notice that if you let the weight of your arms fall a little bit more intentionally into your hands, there's an easing in the shoulders. And this is a good example of why we have to work at the computer with our forearms supported. If there is no support for the lower arms, your shoulders end up doing the work of keeping your hands in place. You notice the difference. Notice how it feels when the weight can fall into your hands. Shoulders can soften and drop down the rib cage. And then just for an experiment, just hold your hands in the air. Don't let the hands rest on the thighs for a moment. See what's doing the work. Your shoulders. Okay, this is why it's so important to be well supported. Okay, let's stretch out the spine. We're already sitting, so we'll stretch it out from a sitting position. Actually, we'll do a nice easy stretch. We won't even interlace the fingers. We will just bring the hands up, rotating the shoulders on the way so that your hands are passing through a nice neutral position at shoulder height. You can stop here for a moment here, okay? Why don't we try supporting the hands on an imaginary support surface, the air, okay? Pretend the air is texturized, and then take the work out of the shoulders, even here. And bring your thumbs up, palms are heading towards each other. You're gonna get only as far as you can get with some ease in the shoulders today. Only you know what your range of motion is on any given day, and it changes all the time, depending on what you've been up to. We don't want to push to the end or through the end of our range of motion. We want to work in a nice, comfortable zone. So slowly and with the breath now. We're going to inhale, okay, root ourselves down through the feet and the pelvis. Stop, pause for a moment at shoulder height to feel the support of the air Relax the shoulders and then take the arms up. Exhale, same thing in reverse. Press some air down, stop for a moment to feel supported by that air, and bring your hands all the way down at the bottom of the exhalation. Our pelvis is deeply rooted. Inhale. Of course, as the arms lift off the rib cage, we are lengthening the spine. So we're lengthening it by the breath and also by the work of the arms and shoulders. Exhale. At the bottom of the exhalation, the pelvis is deeply rooted. One more time. Inhale. Stay at the top. Stay wherever you get to here. Okay, and exhale. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, take your first twist of the day, which will be very gentle. I suggest that the breastbone and the gaze head out in the direction of the knee. Okay, nothing more than that. The back hand here can come behind the tailbone, fingertips, it's called cupcake hands, okay? Fingertips to the mat. That hand gives us a little bit of maintained length in the spine. Don't want to feel any twinging here. It's our first twist, just gentle movement. That's what we're after today and always, gentle movement. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, hands up to wherever they get comfortably. Lengthen the spine so that we're not twisting from a compressed spine, and a gentle twist to the other side. No further than the direction where your knee is pointing. That may be way too far for you today. No discomfort in the lower spine. That's always our gauge of safety. Okay, come back to center. We'll do a lean so that we move the spine in its sideways plane. So root yourself down with the side of the pelvis that you're going to be leaning away from and the hand that you're going to be leaning towards. Raise one hand up. Okay, open that side of the spine. And then it's as though you're pulling up a strap that's anchored beneath your far sitting bone. And you're reaching with it to the place more or less, but certainly no farther than where the wall meets the ceiling, that corner. And we're not going for a maximum lean here. We're just going for an opening on the one side of the spine and one side of the rib cage. Okay, a place to feel ease and expansiveness. Breathe into the extra space that you've opened up in the chest, where the ribs have lifted off each other, where the spine has lifted off the vertebrae, and come back down. Okay, again, root down to the pelvis side you're going to be leaning away from, and the hand, the fingertips of the hand are going to be reaching toward. It's as though you're pulling up a strap that's anchored down. Look, I'll even demonstrate. It's as though you're doing this. So you're taking the strap here. We don't need a strap. I'm just showing you how much of a connection there is between the sitting bone and the hand. Okay. Visualize opening up of the vertebrae of the spine, space between the ribs. More space for the nerves to run freely, more space for the breath. Come back. Okay, and we will move the spine and warm up the spine in its, so we did an axial plane, that's extending and releasing the spine. We did a twist, we did a sideways movement in each side, and now we'll do we'll move the spine through its range of motion in the flexion and extension range. Now, please don't work at all the way to the end. Don't flex your spine as much as you're capable of, and don't extend your spine as much as you're capable of. Don't go all the way. Stop yourself and keep a fluidity into the motion. Now, this is a breath-based movement, so on the exhalation, chin, or actually the forehead and the pelvis come toward each other. It's an angry cat that you're approximating here. And on the inhalation, the tailbone and the crown of your head come up towards the ceiling. Okay, Now, I'm looking at you, but you should be looking at the mat below you. You don't really want to introduce a twist to the neck here. Try not to look at the screen because the neck should always be an extension of the spine. Okay? You like to introduce only one movement at a time to the neck. If the neck is bending and flexing, we don't want to turn the neck to the side as well. Now use your fingers. The minute our hands are on the mat, they take a tremendous amount of a role in supporting us. In fact, by the time we get up to a down dog position, the hands are doing much, much more work than the feet. Okay, so this in a way is the preparation for that. Here you have a choice between the tops of your feet and your knees and your hands, but the hands should certainly be placed with a great amount of intention, middle fingers parallel to each other, okay, gripping the earth with your fingertips. Let's curl the toes under, okay, lift the knees up, and press yourself back from your hands. The feet are doing very, very, very little work. Press yourselves back, press your hips up the wall behind you. Okay, fill out your spine. With every exhalation, get some fullness in the lower spine and in the area between your shoulders. Head is heavy. Okay, head is putting some traction on the lower spine here. You're looking between your thighs. The hands are doing the work. Press the fingertips and the thumbs into the mat a little bit deeper so that you can get yourself up that back wall. There's no sagging in between the shoulder blades. We're not trying to do a sagging down dog. We're trying to do a stretch of the back with the back of the back body with your lower back and area between the shoulders filled out. Okay, slowly, slowly, come forward onto your knees. And we'll move the hips over to one side. We'll sit safely. And we will lie down on the mat. Okay, we're going to do some gentle hip movement. You know, I say this all the time. I don't want to use the word stretching because that's an aggressive word, and it's something, you know, it's something that it's like you stick your leg up on a high bar in ballet and you stretch the back of your leg. No, we don't want to do that. We want to bring gentle movement into areas that are in held or static poses for hours and hours and hours every day on a cumulative basis. And the safest way to do it is to introduce movement very, very slowly. So let's stretch out one leg and pull the other thigh in towards the rib cage. So you're working with an asymmetric pelvis right now. Just pull, hold that leg in. Now, if you have a prop handy and you want to open the front of the other hip, you can stick that prop under your pelvis, okay? So that in addition to warming up the pelvis and the back of the thigh, the leg that we're bending, we're also gently opening up the front of the other hip. To do that, your hip has to be higher than your feet. Might be worth taking a moment. A folded up cushion will do very nicely here. If you're sitting on an instability surface, like what's called a mushroom, like a physio instability surface, that can be great. Anything works here. Okay, and let's switch sides. We'll do this on both sides first in case your pelvis is raised up. You can take a minute in between. Okay, bring the other leg in. Now, the leg that is straight is part of what's stabilizing the other leg. We want to experience some ease in the pelvis here. So we're stabilizing ourselves with the straight leg as well as the torso from shoulder to shoulder and the head. Okay, but the lower body is one side of it is part of the stabilizing piece of the pose and the other is experiencing the ease. Okay, and slowly release that leg. Remove the prop if you've used one, all right? And we're going to bring both legs in. We're sitting, pelvis is on the ground. Now take a minute to rock it out from side to side, okay? We're want to work with a wide pelvis here. As we bring both thighs in towards the belly, towards the rib cage. And with the breath, we can release the tailbone towards the mat on the inhalation. And raise the lower back, the sacrum, the tailbone, the pelvis off the mat with the exhalation. So a gentle opening and closing. Now, different people view this pose differently. It can be your thighs initiating the motion here, or it can be the thighs following the natural movement of the breath. You can use the thighs to squeeze out the air from the lungs and then open up the chest cavity as the lungs come back in. It's very breath-based here. Okay, we'll bring one foot to the mat here, keeping the knee bent, and raise the other leg. Any kind of an inversion is amazing for tired feet and legs, okay? Just stay here for a second, hold the pose. Your knee doesn't have to be straight. We just want to bring the blood back towards the heart from the foot, and then we can point and flex. Articulate the ankle joints. This is where I like to mention that if you're using a footrest, it's really nice to use an adjustable footrest so that you can articulate the ankles. And circles one way, circles the other. Okay, and now we'll move the knee gently in the only direction that it's meant to move, that's bending and straightening. There's no rotation or sideways motion that's safe for the knee. Okay, and take that leg down, switch legs, bring the other leg up, and just hold it there. Enjoy the feeling of the blood flowing out of the foot. Okay, through the pelvic basin. Very, very healthy. Back to the heart and point and flex. Articulate the ankles, circles one way and the other. And then the knee. Keep the thigh vertical, just a simple straightening and bending of the knees. Okay, bring both knees into the chest and let the knees fall to one side as you keep the opposite shoulder down on the ground, okay? Now this is a great place to grab your prop again if you have it. Okay, nobody said your knees have to go all the way to the ground. It's the other side of the chest and rib cage here that's opening up. Okay, this is a chest opener more than it is a spinal twist. It's just a bit of a lower spinal gentle twist. Exhale, bring the legs back up and let the knees fall to the other side as the shoulder that you're moving away from stays pinned to the mat. I'm working with the wall here. It's kind of convenient actually to block the twist. It puts a limit to it. Okay, come on up. Now we're going to do some movement of the hips in a direction that they seldom get moved in. That's basically across the midline and out to the side. So grab your prop, whatever it is that you're using. Okay, I'm using a strap here. You can use a belt. Done this with a belt many times. You can certainly use a long sleeve shirt and grab the sleeves. It's okay if there's a little bit of a stretch to it. We want to straighten one leg and engage that leg very much. It's as though you're holding up like an imaginary wall with the inside of that leg from the top of the thigh down to the inside of the foot. Hold that. Keep your attention on the supporting leg here. Okay, we want some ease in the raised leg, and that can only come from a very, very stable supporting leg. So we've got one leg raised. We're going to engage the front of the thigh here, engage the quadriceps to bring a gentle stretch up the back of that leg. Okay, and then we're going to I have a wall here, as I said. We're going to let that leg go out to its own side. Okay, now keep your attention, again, both legs are working equally hard here. Keep your attention on the supporting leg. We want a gentle stretch. It's amazing I have this wall here because it really makes the point. This is not about seeing if that leg can go all the way to the floor, okay? It goes to wherever you feel a soft opening, and if you just hold it there for several seconds, the muscles running in the inside of your leg from your hip down to your knee soften and release. Okay, and we must come out of this very carefully. The longer you hold it, the more cautiously you have to come out. So slowly, using your opposite hand to help you up. The hands are doing very little work here. Your upper arms are resting on the mat. Okay, and now we're going to take that leg across the body to the other side, feeling a stretch down the outside of the hip and thigh. An area that doesn't normally get so much attention. Again, we're not going to be able to go very far when the leg is crossed over. We want to make sure that we're rooted down from both sides of the pelvis and the back, especially the side we're moving away from. Just hold and breathe into the softening tissue, the outside of the hip and thigh. Back slowly. You could always use the same hand as the leg that's raised to come back. And switch sides, so bend your knee in. Okay, and take the leg that was up. That is going to be your new stabilizing leg. So bring it down to the mat. Okay, root down through the whole length of the leg, and your thighs, even though they're not in the same plane, they are magnetically connected here. Okay, both thighs are kind of connected to an imaginary midline. So that they're both working, both legs are working, and the side, the front of the hip of the rooting leg, of the leg on the ground is working very, very hard. Okay, so that even though this leg is also engaged, there can be some ease, especially in the back of the raised leg. The more we press with the front of the thigh, the more we engage the quads, the more the back of that leg opens up. Remember, muscles work in opposing pairs. We can't stretch the back of this leg. We can only contract the front of this leg. Okay, now keeping the side of the pelvis that you're going to be opening away from rooted down. So if your right leg is on the mat, root down with the back of the right side of your pelvis and open the left leg. You can choose which hand you want to hold the straps in. Now my strap is is very long. If you're using a shirt with long sleeves, you may not have so much room here. We don't want to see how far we can get with the leg. We're curious about how much independent movement there is of the leg in the hip socket when the pelvis is stable. That's what we're trying to find out here. Okay, so we must keep a stable pelvis and not work to the end of our range of motion. We don't want to feel our maximum pull at all. Slowly come back up. Take the strap in the other hand, and you're going to pull that leg across the body. Before you do that, you're going to root down, stabilize the side of the pelvis of the raised leg, and from there, you're curious to see how much independent movement there is of this side in the hip socket. Remembering it's a ball and socket joint. It's a deep ball and socket joint, but because we're crossing over the rooted pelvis, we probably don't have so much movement available here. Come back and release the strap, and let's take both legs up. Okay, this is called a lying down staff pose. Let's take both legs up. We can engage both the thighs here, press into the ceiling with the heels of both feet and reach up with both hands. Okay, so you're reaching all the way to the ceiling, and then allow your shoulder blades in the back to be drawn back in towards the force of gravity. Okay, so that you are rooted down, your whole back body from the pelvis right up to the shoulder blades is supporting you. So in addition to reaching there is some ease here in the extremities. Okay, you can play with this pose a little bit. You can make little circles from the hips, like you're polishing the ceiling here with a fancy polishing machine, and then switch the direction. Just to show you how much ease there is when the back body can be fully stabilized here. Okay, now it's much easier to stabilize yourself when you have a big surface area, like your whole torso connecting with the mat rather than, let's say, your feet. Okay, so let's, this is a great hip stretch. Okay, we're going to cross the legs at the knee so that you can only basically see more or less one knee, okay? And grab wherever you can grab, either your shins or your ankles or your feet, okay? And pull your knees in towards the chest. So this is an asymmetric stretch. You're going to feel this a lot more on the outside of the hip of the top leg than the bottom. The hip, I mean, this is a pretty safe place to work. But as with all poses, we don't ever want to work at the end of the range of motion. If you feel that you're at the end of your range of motion right now, just come out of it a little bit. It's always easy to get out. We maximize the advantage of this anonymous online platform to do only what's right for you, nobody knowing. Okay, again, let's slowly, carefully unwind and switch directions here. Okay, so that the other leg is now on the top. One knee is directly on top of the other. It may be hard to reach your bottom foot. Maybe you'll just grab that prop if it's a strap, and you know, we love props. Okay, I just don't want to use any props that you don't have. But you can use anything for this. You could use a sock. Okay, just demonstrating how a prop allows you to get the benefits of the pose. I'm a private yoga teacher, so I'm all about adaptability. It's the same with ergonomics. We're always adapting the workspace to you. You shouldn't be adapting yourself to get into any pose ever. We always want to adapt the poses so that you can get the maximum benefit from the pose. It never matters what they look like. Okay? Slowly come out of that. Let's roll onto one side and sit up. Okay? Let's do that exact same thing now from sitting position. All right? Now it's much more challenging to do this when you're seated. So if you want, if your hips, if you know that your hips are a little tight, again, get anything to sit on here. It can be a cushion. Okay, and we want to have one knee on top of the other here. Okay, now when we're seated, we don't have to pull the feet towards us. So let's say your right knee is on top. We're going to raise the opposite hand. We're going to raise the hand up the bottom leg, okay? And let's take that hand up. You can use the other hand to help the elbow come to the sky. And the hand falls back. The hand goes wherever it goes. It can be touching your head, it can be touching your neck, the area between your shoulder blades. It can grab your shirt. If you still have a strap handy, you can grab the strap, okay? Let's take the other hand, raise it up with the thumb down so that that shoulder is pointing forward, and bring that hand up the spine from the bottom, okay? You can grab the strap. If you don't have a strap, both hands can grab your shirt. We're not trying to get the hands to meet. That's not accessible to everybody. Okay, now, we need some resistance for the bottom hand from the back. We're not trying to go into a back bend or an extension here. So take the area between your shoulder blades and press into the bottom hand. Okay, so that the bottom shoulder is rotated forward and the top shoulder is open. Okay, this is complementing the hip opener by a nice shoulder opener here. You want to be somewhere that you can stay for a few moments with a relatively low amount of effort. Okay, now again, exhale, drop with the breath into the pelvis, into the feet. And see if you can get a little more extension in the spine and ease in the open shoulders. Don't want to spring out of this. Okay, it's a maybe a somewhat extreme, not dangerous, but it's a pretty intense stretch, even working not at your limit. So we want to come out of it slowly. So we're going to start by walking the bottom hand down, releasing the bottom hand, and releasing the top hand. Switch legs. We bring the knee here to the body's midline, okay, so that your hips here are crossing the body's midline. It's a direction that they don't get movement in unless we do it on purpose. Okay, again, I'll use my strap. You know, I won't, just to demonstrate that you don't need a strap here. So the top hand comes up, rotates through the shoulder. We can lift that elbow up using the other hand if we want. And the hand comes to rest somewhere, either between the shoulder blades or on the back of the neck. Make sure that you're breathing, that there's not any tension in the back of your neck or your jaw here, okay? We want to bring the other hand up. Thumb is facing down, that shoulder is rotated forward, and the top of this hand walks kind of up the spine to grab a piece of clothing, okay? So that your shirt is basically connecting, unless your hands reach, mine don't. The shirt is connecting the lower elbow to the top elbow. What we're trying to do is keep that top elbow pointing up to the ceiling here without going into a back bend. We stabilize the back so that the opening is only from the shoulder. Okay, we exhale, we release to the ground so that we have ease in the front of the shoulder, the neck, jaw. Stabilize yourself. If you want more ease in the pose, just focus on getting more stability. The ease is the result. The ease is what flows out of the stability. And slowly, we will bring the bottom hand out and then the top hand out. Raise both hands here. Actually, you can come back into a more sort of standard, comfortable cross-legged pose. Raise both hands here and give yourself a big hug, okay? And then from that hug, my arms are almost doing what my legs were doing before. I can see only the top elbow. The elbows are right on top of each other. I'm going to inhale and press my rib cage into my hands. Squeeze the rib cage with the hands. Then if you want, but it's not necessary, you can drop one elbow into the other, bring the back of the hand to the back of the hand, then increase the twist to bring palm to palm. Exhale, drop the shoulders, and rest your forehead on your hands here, so that your neck and jaw are easy. Okay, this is a stretch of the back, body in between the shoulder blades. We open that area by compressing the front. That's how we get the openness there. And we breathe into the area that we've opened up. And then we slowly unwind the hands and release. Let the hands come up. Give yourself a hug. The other hand is on top now. Okay, I don't know if you can grab your shoulder blades. That's kind of like good grip. If you can't, then just press your hands into the rib cage and the rib cage back into the hands. This is, you're compressing the front of the chest here. This is a great way to open the back body. This might be more than enough. If you want to stay here, you can stay here. If you want to go on, drop one elbow into the other. Backs of the hands Come together and then bring your lower thumb towards the forehead to wrap the wrists around each other so that you're palm to palm. And take a moment to exhale and release all tension from the back of the neck and the jaw. Rest your forehead on your thumb here. Okay, we are contracting the front body to bring ease into the area between the shoulder blades, the neck, and soften the jaw. And we'll raise both shoulders to the ears. And with the exhalation, lower them again. Root yourself down. Always be asking yourself, don't wait for me. What can I be stabilizing to experience more ease? We're trying to ease the shoulders, stabilize the pelvis. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Let's do some easy circles, shoulders. Ease them out here, okay? Ease out, you need to ease out. I don't think we want to do this in the reverse direction. And take a deep breath, lengthen the spine, and then let the head release. Let your head be as heavy as you can. And allow the weight of that head to open up the back of your neck. Send your breath into the extra space that you just created between the vertebrae of your neck. It's a little bit of a mini inversion here. And we used the weight of the head when we were in down dog to directly put some traction on the spine. This is just a way of softening up the neck. Come up slowly. And we'll lie down. Drip ourselves down into a final relaxation pose. So we will take a nice final, okay? Final spinal twist here. So straighten out one leg, keep the other foot to the mat with the knee bent, and move your hips over to the side of the bent knee, okay? Now, root yourself down at the shoulder on the bent knee side. Bring that bent leg in to your belly and then cross that leg over, okay? The shoulder that you're moving away from has stayed on the ground. It does not matter how far your knee gets, okay? In order to have a twist, we need to have an anchor at the end point. So the shoulder stays down. If you want, as with any twist, you can place your head facing or the breastbone is facing, or you can choose to take the neck into the twist and look out towards the hand that's still on the ground. I have this wall next to me. You might have something next to you. We just bend the arm if there's a wall. We call it cactus arms. If you can straighten out your arm, then please just bring the palm to the floor and use your whole arm, not just the shoulder, to root you down. Want to take it easy here. It's just an easy final twist. Breathe into the side of the rib cage that you've twisted away from. And slowly come back to center. Okay, bring that foot to the mat, foot of the bent leg, and scoot your hips over to the other side, and then change legs. Okay, so we will now pull the other thigh in towards the chest, root ourselves down through the shoulder and out the arm that we're going to be twisting away from, and twist over to the other side. Doesn't matter where the knee gets. Keep the shoulder down so we have something to twist away from. A nice easy opening in the rib cage, in the chest, the side that we've moved away from. That's where we send the breath. And come back to center. And shake it out with a sigh. And note, you could try shaking it out without a sigh, with a sigh. Notice that By exhaling audibly on the shakeout, the weight really falls to the back body, which is where we want our rooting to be now, so that we can open up the body and experience the ease. Okay, so let's just shake it out twice. Okay, and come into a final relaxation pose. If you don't like lying with both legs straight, then you can bring both feet to the mat, hip width or wider, and let one knee rest on the other. It's called a collapsed bridge pose. It's relaxing on the lower spine. Lower spine should not be touching the mat here. It's kind of return to its natural curves. Or you can straighten out both legs. Again, lower spine will not be touching the mat here. And let the feet pull the hips open, okay? We don't need to hold on to the feet here in a nice parallel position. We want the weight of the feet to create a little opening at the hips. Okay, relax, feet. Let the calves kind of just melt into the mat. Hips are open, the pelvis is heavy. Feel the weight of the pelvis here. The lower spine is supported in between the anchor points of your pelvis and your shoulder blades. There's no soft tissue effort required to keep the lower spine soft here. It's just that arch supported by its two anchors. Chest is open, the hands are out to the side, palms to the ceiling, shoulders are open. And with every inhalation, just feel a little more space opening up around the heart center. Feel the ease. Okay, and this right now, in this quiet, final relaxation pose, is where your body integrates the benefits of the poses, the breathing, the attention. This is where your brain really gets it, that you're safe and it's okay to move into a non-stress mode of operation. Okay, to stay for a while in a non-stress response. Very, very, very healthy to get out of that fight or flight place where we operate most of the time. So I am going to slowly sit up. You don't have to, of course. Nobody knows how long you stay here. I'm going to use my hands and arms to push me into a sitting position. I'm going to take a moment to reorient myself in this stabilized vertical relationship to gravity. My lower body creating a three-sided stable base of support, and then unobstructed, easy energy flowing up the alternating curves of my spine. I'm aware of the breathing. When I exhale, I root down through the pelvis. And when I inhale, energy flows up my spine and out through the crown of my head. If you're doing some work, if you feel like your back muscles are tight, maybe rearrange the structural building blocks of your spine so that the balancing of the curves itself is doing the work and not the connective tissue of your back body. Exhale, stability. Inhale, ease. Exhale, rooting down. Inhale, rising up. And when you return to the rest of your working day, come back to this idea that the more supported I am in my lower body, the more ease I can experience in my upper.